Do this really maniacal thing. I've actually I think I did it yesterday or today. But like I'll drive and I'll try to blow up a car with my mind. And I think about God, if that actually worked, I'd be in so much fucking trouble.
Holy
I wouldn't
shit.
be in trouble, but
Oh,
my
shit.
conscience would be. But I don't know why. That's what I go to is either blowing up that or like a bird I see.
Welcome to Camping for Assholes.
Star Wars. When I was a kid, it blew my mind. I fucking loved it. I watched those old ass movies on VHS over and over. I rented them from the store over and over. I lived and breathed Star Wars when I was a kid. And even to this day, I still hold such a dear place in my heart for it. And still, probably once a year, I still try to use the Force as a grown ass man. I don't know if anybody else here has that problem, but once in a while, I'll reach for something and try really hard to make it move. What was any one of you guys? What was that like when you were a kid and you got your first experience with Star Wars?
It's like birthright. I felt like when I was a kid, I was born 82, so that was right around when Return of the Jedi came out. So like my parents already had it. So my youngest memories as a kid were that movie in particular because it was the new movie. My parents were already watching it. So I remember as a kid that particular one, we watched it over and over and over. And it was the first movie for us where we like mimicked the characters, like we wanted to be this guy, we wanted to be that guy. And then from there, it kind of grew. We started watching backwards and got into the collection, and it went from there. But like that was the one for me that like that's as far back as I can remember.
Nice. Hunter, you look like you were about to say something.
I remember I used to. Yeah, and I remember always going to my parents when I was younger, and I specifically remember being in their basement. I can't remember how old I was, but Empire Strikes Back was on, and it was like when a tauntaun was like running across. It was like a big pan shot of the tauntaun running across, and for like the longest time, like I just didn't know what it was. I started watching it. I'm like, this movie is so cool, and I don't know if I was just so young I couldn't like wrap my brain around what I was actually watching. But I just like that scene of the tauntaun running in the snow was like burned into my memory, and it took me like a few years of getting older and like asking my dad like about it, because every time he asked me, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "There's just like weird animal creature like running in the snow and stuff," and then another big animal creature attacks the guy on it, and he's just like, "Yeah, sure, okay, sounds cool." Not like knowing I'm describing probably one of the most epic set of movies ever coming out, but yeah, I mean definitely like right away it captured my imagination. And then like you said, I had the original trilogy on VHS, and I watched it like so many times that they just stopped working. Like I couldn't even like if you guys remember the old tracking buttons you had on the VHSs, like I couldn't even like get it into tracking anymore. It was just like skipping. I'm like, at least I know what's going on in my heart. Like, it was just that bad. But yeah, it was definitely a big part of my.
Yeah, I mean, for me, growing up, Sundays in my grandparents' living room, I was exposed to a lot of westerns and True Grit, Good, Bad, and the Ugly, Matlock, which isn't a western, but I watched a lot of that. And then one day, my grandpa put on the New Hope, and I remember I was probably 10 or so. And I'm like, what is this? I wasn't even interested in the beginning. He's like, oh, this is a bunch of computers and shit. You'll like that shit. And so I watched it from start to beginning, and I wasn't like immediately hooked. I specifically remember. And then I got into like Battlestar Galactica, like the old series. Like I really got into that. And then Empire Strikes Back was on TV again. And I watched that, and I started like asking questions to myself. And then it took off from there. Star Wars has always meant something different to me the older I get. And it seems like it still surprises me and changes things for me. Young, I was enamored with Han Solo. I wanted to be like him. And that's where I felt like a Western to me, like he was just cool fucking gunslinger dude. And he was just so awesome, And then as I got older, it was just like, the worlds and the obsession with sci-fi. I became such a sci-fi nut for that because the worlds were so lived in and so like were pure, you know, like there was they felt like something. You could almost smell it when you saw it, like on the movies. And yeah, so I was from probably from 10 on, I was just obsessed.
Yeah, the Empire Strikes Back was always my go-to at the rental. I rented it over and over and over. And like I remember trying to find the other ones, but I always ended up renting the same one. And like I'd be mad, but I'd still watch it. And I remember acting sick so I could stay home just so I could watch the trilogy and watch all 3 movies back to back. And then when the last movie was done, I knew my mom was gonna be home soon from work, and then it was gonna be like, oh, back to reality. You know? But that was my escape as a kid. The toys that I had and I wanted, and I don't know if any of you have the original toys from way back or had them when you were younger, but my wife's uncle actually has the Millennium Falcon fold-up toy holder with like a bunch of the originals. He's just pulled it out one Christmas. He's like, "Oh yeah, I hear you like Star Wars. Check this out." And I was just like, eyes were just wide, like, "Oh my god, can I touch it?" You know, I remember the what the fuck, the walrus guy or whatever, that gets his hand chopped off. I forget his name, but anyway,
Doesn't like you.
Yeah, that action figure with a little fucking vest and stuff on it, and remember the old C-3PO and stuff. Usually, they just feel so weird. That like historical piece of my childhood when I came across it was really cool, and nothing else in my whole life has ever like meant or took up my imagination or took that much of my care ever. It just like kind of consumed me as a kid. And the problem with that is, and it's the same problem I have with like Metallica, I keep forcing myself to like it as the years go by, and I'm noticing a trend. It's not good anymore, and I don't want to admit it, but like I haven't seen a good Star Wars movie since The Empire Strikes Back. I mean, honest to God, Return of the Jedi was still good, but like it was already starting to turn for me. And now being an adult and looking back on it.
I was going to say the coffee mug that holds all my pens at my desk is actually a C-3PO.
This is an oldie right here.
That's an old one, huh?
Yeah.
Damn. So those of you listening to the audio portion of this, Josh just held up what is the name of it?
Runner.
Blockade Runner. That's right. That's the one that Princess Leia gets taken off of, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Episode 4. Yeah, not to like rain on a good thing, but like I do feel like that a little bit. I feel like a lot of the new stuff and even like the prequels and all that stuff has kind of dragged me on and made me like try to forcibly like something. But I always feel a little different about these movies every time I revisit them, except for the classics. I still have my same opinions for like probably the last 10 years on the classics. Like nothing changes other than I think the newest thing is I started to notice like where Star Wars was headed in Return of the Jedi, because there's one scene that stood out to me as an adult, and that's where Chewbacca Tarzan swings onto an AT-ST or AT-AT, and you hear the Tarzan, oh, you know, and it's just like had no place in the movie whatsoever. And when you take it as serious as I have, which is silly. Let me just correct you. When you take something in, like Star Wars and you say as seriously as I take it, I know that statement's stupid. I know that being that far into a fantasy world that's meant for fun and gags and everything else is too much, and I should chill out about it. But it was so important to me when I was a kid. Like it almost like structured my personality to a point where like I didn't want to be the bad guy. I wanted to be a good guy. I wanted to help people out. I wanted to be a nice person. And yeah, I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts? You guys got I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, man.
I feel like the problem with the other Star Wars movies for me, I guess with the prequel, the problem was just the order. Like you got those original 3 movies, and of course those are always going to have your heart just because it was a time and place. Like we got the other ones first when we were kids. But then all of a sudden it was like, what did you think of the Star Wars trilogy? Like, oh, they're the best. Well, what do you think made those characters tick? Well, I don't give a fuck. Like, it was a great story. Well, you want to see them when they were younger? Not really. Okay, well, we're going to tell you all about what happened to them when they were little. All right, fine. So you caved in the first one. You're like, okay, well, this is at least starting to tell me I get like the backstory of them now. That's cool. All right, well, we're going to give you more about what happened after that. Like, okay, but I get it. Like, whatever. You know what I mean? And then it just aimed towards blockbuster for the last two, and it really fizzled out. Like, my idea of, like, you know where it's going, just fucking get there, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, going back to what you're saying, Jared, about, you know, Return of the Jedi and even New Hope, and I kind of maybe, I don't know if we want to dive into this or not, but you know, the common denominator here is Empire Strikes Back is, are we all going to agree Empire Strikes Back is the best one?
Yes.
I agree to that.
Yes.
Hunter, you good with that? Okay.
Dilly dilly. Dilly dilly.
That's the only one out of the original trilogy that George Lucas did not write.
I thought it was the one he didn't direct.
No, he didn't write it. It was Lawrence
He directed.
Kasdan
Okay.
and Beckett wrote it. Now, here's to say that I think what the original trilogy did was give us a taste of everything that Star Wars could have been, and this is where I'm going with this, is that the three films go together wonderfully, but each film is a little different. And what still makes it magical, I think, is people's really first look at what lore is. For the first time in cinema history, people were obsessed with characters that had a minute of screen time, 30 seconds of screen time. There was a mystique about everything because the world that George, you know, you can shit on George Lucas, you can praise him, it doesn't matter. What he did was he created this world that just was so freaking interesting and that you wanted to be there. And I think with the three movies, and I totally get what Jared's saying when he says, you know, he looks at Return of the Jedi now, and you're like, Jesus Christ. Especially the last, like, the whole Endor part. I'm just like, good
Yeah,
God.
that's fair.
But it's almost natural for it to go there. I mean, George Lucas was making money hand over fist, and he's getting ready to introduce a whole new generation to it. Whether he did it right or wrong, it doesn't matter. It was his child. But Star Wars itself had this idea of this really cool world, and I think George may have lost sight of that in the prequels. And I think my opinion, which I know is shared with a lot of people, is that it was Disney doesn't understand what made Star Wars special. You know, it's not even about the story, really. It kind of is and it isn't. A lot of people like take the good and evil thing away from it, and I get that. I don't think it's that deep. It's an opera. But it's the world. That's what makes Star Wars, for me anyway.
I would say that see, if you're going with that, then the prequels kind of throw a wrench in that operation or that thought process, because I felt like that was like, I still think that was terribly done. It to me, it's kind of like I can't even decide between the latest 6 movies, like where they stand with each other. I know that, okay, I think I can say clearly that episode 2 is the worst because it has no bearing on anything and it's like borderline unwatchable for me. Episode 1 might be the best out of all of them, believe it or not, even with Jar Jar, because like you take away a few of the things that are awful and you have a all right movie. You just don't need, I mean, it was the best villain that was introduced in the last, 6 or whatever. And I guess the world, you kind of ended up going back to the same old places, and they want to play the safe card when they do all this stuff. And I don't know what Disney was thinking with the latest trilogy. It just felt like, I kept telling myself too, and that's what I was talking about earlier, where like you try to lie to yourself, like make yourself like it. Like, oh, episode 7, I decided that I would like it if episode 8 was good. And then episode 8 came out, and I was like, okay, well, maybe if episode 9 just really hits it home, I can like all 3 movies. Because I felt like when you were talking earlier about Empire Strikes Back being the best one, and it wasn't even written by George Lucas, I felt like, because people ask that all the time, like, oh, well, how you didn't know what was all going on back then when you watched those movies. You just liked it. So you should just like these new ones. And it's like, I kind of get that a little bit, but I didn't know that when I was a kid. So maybe kids have a way different opinion about these newer movies that I can't even relate to. I know my 13-year-old daughter doesn't like them that much. And my, 6-year-old kid, not that interested. So they missed those two generation booms or whatever. The action and stuff, and Baby Yoda's cute, but like Baby Yoda isn't even really like tied into the movie universe. So
that's kind of what I was getting at, though, is like, that's what I think Disney did wrong, is that they tried to make films, and that's even arguable or debatable, but they didn't continue building the world. See, the prequels, George Lucas lost sight of what's, I think he lost sight of the lived in world thing. Everything was super CG. He was trying to achieve, he spent a lot of time on special effects, you can tell, right? It was written poorly.
Oh yeah.
But you were still high off of the original trilogy, and you were still put yourself, that's why it almost worked in a way, because you put yourself in that world still, right? And you saw new things, right? Then Disney comes along and they're trying to play off tropes off the old one, but they didn't do anything to build the world. There was no care taken into building the story, progressing the story, and nothing made sense. And they just tried making kind of what Adam said, a blockbuster, And you can get into, there's a million things wrong with the Disney movies, but that's what they're missing. They're missing that whatever that is, that new exciting frontier explored world. And maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I think. I don't know.
No,
No, go ahead.
I agree with you. I mean, I think the biggest thing was, it just felt so rehashed. I mean, we look at the first, the ending of episode 7. What's the big battle? Oh, it's another giant fucking Death Star type, weapon that we have to destroy. What's the second one? I felt like there was no continuity, like with the last 3. Like there wasn't like a goal or an end sight. Like when they started them, I think they were just like, hey, like we should just start doing these because I think we have a new, generation we can, go to or whatever. And they're like, let's do the first one and we'll just get a few, old characters back, get a little of the nostalgic stuff back to get the old people in. And then we'll just go and see how it goes. And then it's like, oh shit, like that one did okay. Let's do another one. Like, I don't feel like there was any like smoothness, where I felt there was so many scenes in the latest trilogy that just like didn't make sense, or like it just didn't have to be in there. Like why did we do, like, I bring this one up constantly in The Last Jedi, like the casino world place. Like what an epic waste of time. Like there was nothing they gained by that. They like I could understand if something came full circle with like that whole trip, but at the end of the day, the guy they went there to get betrayed them, and it just like backfired anyway. So it's like, what was the story arc there? Like you hired on Benicio del Toro to bring in a grade A, actor or whatever, and that's all he did was like, sorry, I got to do my thing. Just like walks away. And I just looked at my buddy and we got out of the movie. I'm like, that was just an epic 2.5 long slow car chase movie. Like it would, like that's literally what it was. They couldn't capture them because they were just out of range, and there was nothing at the end of it. Like that was it. And I mean, I feel like it was almost like I said to my buddy, I'm like, if they really wanted to do this the right way, they should have wrapped up the Skywalker lineage the right way. Like the entire movies, even if you like would look at the 1, 2, and 3, and you can enjoy them, it was all still about Skywalker. So we have all these like 6 movies, and then we just throw in like a brand new character that has nothing to do with. I mean, yeah, okay, spoiler alert for people who hasn't seen it. It's Sidious line, but it's like, I don't know. I felt like it was like kind of forced and everything. Like, no pun, but they're just trying to force out like this storyline to get like somebody on board. But I to your point about the worlds, I feel like The Mandalorian I really enjoyed. I don't know if it's more of like more of an adult themed kind of thing, where I mean, like you said, you grew up on Westerns. I did too. Kind of my grandpa, just every time I was over, he had it was like AMC was on, and like it was always Western shows. I just feel like that's almost like a spaghetti Western in space. So I like that too. Like,
it really is.
You know, the guy's got like, you know, he's just roaming from planet to planet hunting bounties, and then he's got kind of like this backstory where he's got to protect and stuff. So I mean, I think it drew me in more than it was, you know, the latest three of the debacle.
So I think the reason I side with Josh more on this is just because the world was so good in 4, 5, and 6 because the world held up the Skywalkers, who, in my opinion, and I'm sorry, are the shittiest heroes in the history of movies. And I'm sorry. You have a family. They're essentially the Kardashians of movies. Like, I'm going to get this out. Like, so you basically have they're just kind of pussies about everything. Like,
Yeah.
if you really look at their whole lineage, and we can get into that later, it's a whole subject, but like, you liked the characters in the other movie because they held up the Skywalkers. Like, they made the movie fun. So now in the last movies, especially, you have the Skywalkers holding up characters that are shittier than them, which means you've already lost the movie. Like, you dip in and sprinkle in those other characters because it's like, hey, look, we still got it. We still got it. Well, you're sprinkling powdered sugar on shit. Like, it's still shit, you know? Like, that's the problem I had with it. Like, your world is now worse than your best characters, which are crap. And I'm not knocking Star Wars, just the Skywalkers. They're terrible people.
I mean, I think it's very true. I mean, look at from Anakin to Luke, right? And then I often wondered this too, because Luke was never looked up to Luke. I wasn't even that fascinated with Luke. Never did. But when he showed up in The Mandalorian, everyone saw that, right? Spoiler alert: Luke shows up in the end of season 2 Mandalorian.
You say it after.
Yeah. Well, what? No, that's what happened.
You've had some time to watch it.
For some reason, it invoked this emotion in me, right? When I saw Luke Skywalker, and I don't care about Luke Skywalker, but when I saw him show up and I saw his X-Wing come in, I'm like, oh! And then he fucking came in and he was like totally Return of the Jedi Luke, right? Which, like, he missed his movie. Like, that Luke, I should have been in Empire Strikes Back, but I know he was still growing up, whatever, right? But here comes like super serious, no fun Luke, which he was never fun to begin with. He just doesn't whine. But here he comes, and he looked badass, right? Like, he just came off like confident. But that was almost like the Luke I always projected I wanted. It's the Luke I wanted. But like Adam said, everybody around him kind of propped him up. That's why Han Solo was my favorite, right? That's why Leia was way more badass than he was.
Yep.
You know, and it was even when Luke was a Jedi, I was so tired of him at Empire Strikes Back when he was just bitching and fucking moaning to Yoda about it. I'm like, dude, God, get your shit together. But even Anakin, his father, you know, when we found out that whole shit show before he became scary ass Vader, I'm like, what a puss baby. He's whining and crying about shit.
Yes.
But then you see Vader in Rogue One, and you're like, holy shit, this is the monster I always fucking imagined, right? This guy was just having his fucking way with anybody. He was super powerful. He's a monster. And it was like, now you're seeing, and the reason why I'm bringing up Rogue One and Mandalorian, because Rogue One, I think, is my favorite movie of all the new ones. Actually, Rogue One is actually my second favorite Star Wars movie altogether.
A lot of people back that up. How do you guys feel about Rogue One? Are you guys fans?
Love it.
I loved it. I think it's just like I mentioned before, like the grittiness of it. Like, it was really like, I think that's why I like Mandalorian and stuff, because it's like, yeah, Jedis are cool and shit. Like, I mean, that's what we grew up like idolizing, kind of, in a sense. You know, I mean, Josh, I know you like Solo and everything, which I did too. But like, you know, the Jedis were like, these are the badass guys. You know, these guys can kind of fuck up anyone. But like, they didn't focus on them. Like, you know, it was just like, it was normal people like in the Resistance, and I think that's what was kind of cool about it, because it's like, you know, that one the dude that was like blind or whatever, like took the Jedi away, and he wasn't. So it's kind of cool that like, you know, lived that path. But you know, just I like movies where like it almost seemed like Game of Thrones-esque, where like no one was safe. Like it was just all of a sudden, like 1 minute some guy just got blown away, and you're like, oh shit, like, okay, let's keep going. Like, I mean, you kind of knew the end game, but to your point, Josh, yeah, that scene at the end with Vader was probably, like, I think that was like on the same giddiness I had when like Luke did the same thing. It was kind of cool. I saw some dude do like a side by side cut of both of those scenes where like Luke was going through the hallway and Vader was going through the hallway in that blockade runner, and it was like almost like identical, just like chopping them down using the force and everything. I'm like, damn, this is sweet.
There's a YouTube video of this girl who her boyfriend, I think, was filming her watching. It's a famous video. She watched the last like 3 minutes of Rogue One. And she cries. I have watched that video probably 4 or 5 times. I've cried 2 of those times. And that's how I know I have a fucking problem or I have a serious connection to Star Wars. I actually teared up watching her get emotional because it was fucking emotional. Yeah, but you know, the point I was making too is just, I think you're seeing fans make movies. I think these are the things we always, and this is why the old movies work, because we still projected what these people were to us, you know? Vader in the original movies looks kind of clunky. He's goofy. It's kind of goofy, you know? But when you were a kid, it wasn't. You know, when you're a kid, it's different. Luke Skywalker as a kid, because you don't know any fucking better, he's a fucking hero. When you get older, you're like, what a fucking whiny bitch. Someone needed to give him some tough love growing up. But when you're younger, so you're seeing these movies that people projected in their heads of what they saw them as children, you know?
The last 3 movies to me were just Luke Skywalker going, I'm still not figuring out how to be a Jedi, so I'm going to go on a fucking island and just mope for the rest of my life. Like, that was the point of those movies. Like, thanks, dude. I'm such a powerful Jedi. I'm going to go piss about it.
How do you justify that choice? I mean, I knew we were going to tear into Last Jedi, but no smart choices were made on the making of that movie. When I think about, you know, like I said before about episode 1 and a few things you change and it could have been a really perfect movie. I don't think you could do much with Last Jedi, but there are a few things you could do that would change that movie entirely and it would still be watchable. Because I could care less about the slow space station or spaceship chase. I was fine with that concept. I thought there was some cool moments in the movie. The parts that drove me nuts was Luke being on an island moping and fucking milking sea cows. There's an interview, and I'm paraphrasing this story a bit, but Mark Hamill was pissed off because there was a scene that he shot where he was grieving or saddened by the loss of Han. And he went up to the director and he saw the cut and that scene was in, and he asked him, he's like, well, why isn't the scene in there where I'm, you know, showing that I still care about these people? And the director goes, oh, we had to cut it. We had to make time. And then he said, well, you had time to show me milk a sea cow. Like, yep. That's what they prioritize. That's why I can't stand it. I'm sorry. Like, those are the decisions that are destroying the franchise. And I don't know how. Because anybody I talk to, that's the funny thing. You sit down and talk to anybody about Star Wars, and generally you all have a bit of the same idea, or at least the simple staples that you want to see. Even though it's like the same repeat spoon-fed shit, you still want to see Luke Skywalker be actioned, really badass, you know, Jedi, and see where he's at. You still want to see the evil guy almost win. You want to see all these things. But what did Last Jedi do? We're gonna subvert everyone's expectations, and we're gonna kill Snoke right away. And it's like, then Ben's gonna turn, but he's not gonna turn, and they're gonna be, yeah. I mean, God damn it. God damn you, Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Damn you.
Really, goddamn you.
I mean, The Force Awakens was not that great either. That was another one I tried to force myself, because like there was a scene when something snapped in my head where I realized I was kind of watching a turd without realizing it. Was when the Squidbilly part happened in that spaceship with Han. Right after they just, you know, I can deal with the fact that like they just happen to show up and they're in the movie now. Like, that's annoying, but whatever, we'll deal with it. But then also it's like, oh, we're traveling with these fucking giant monsters. Oops, they got out. And everyone's running around and like, what? Why is this happening right now?
Just made it like too campy.
And the gangs that were chasing Han, like I'm glad they
Yeah.
made an appearance in the second and third part of that trilogy. That made a lot of sense.
If that's all you
Oh.
were gonna have Han do in that movie, why didn't you just make up some bullshit story and not even have him come on? Like that was another one of my problems. Like if that's all you were gonna have him there for was to do that little justice to the character, they should have just been like, oh, he fell off the tree right at the end of that celebration at the end of the other one and he's dead.
I heard that they're going to be redoing episode 7, 8, and 9 already. Like I actually heard
Yeah,
that. I don't know
we'll
if that's
see.
true, but
What's
What an
true?
embarrassment.
I've heard like it's not canon.
I
I
don't know
was just
what
gonna
I don't know
say,
what the
to
fuck
go
is
on that, I
canon
think-
anymore.
Yeah, I've heard like it's not gonna be canon.
They're gonna put RoboCop in it.
Now and that's the problem. We don't know what's
Yeah.
canon.
Go
what was
ahead,
it,
Hunter.
Kathleen? What was it, Kathleen Kennedy? That she's the new directive mindset of Star Wars.
Kind of.
she
Well,
was
she's been
assigned-
there for a while.
And I remember reading it. Yeah, I remember reading an interview when like I think it was after Episode 7 came out, and people are kind of complaining. Maybe it was Last Jedi, and she's like, "Well, I don't know what these fans are so upset about. We have no material or nothing to go off of, but these original 6 movies." And it's like, you know how much literature and like
The
books
whole
and comics
expanded
and shit. Like
universe, man.
there's
Okay.
like the fact that like you are the lead directive person of Star Wars and you said something that stupid. Like right when I read that, I'm like, good God, like this episode 9 is gonna just fucking suck too. Like
God
Don't
help
they
us.
go
There
backwards
was
like
really nothing.
65,000 years alone in books? Like just backwards?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, there's tons of them like back in the Old Republic or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
They have storylines and that and shit, and then they have stuff that's way in the future too. Yeah, there's tons of material.
they are moving into that starting to fill in that gap or whatever. They hinted at Thrawn and a bunch of other things too, which
Yeah.
is cool, but it's also like they rewrote Thrawn too to make it work with the Disney narrative, which is annoying to me. I'm like, I'm sorry, that was like the best trilogy and novel I've ever read for Star Wars. That first one with the Thrawn trilogy was a brilliant Star Wars story. If you haven't read it, go read it and ignore all the other crap you're being fed today. It's a great story. Luke meets Mara. The everything's
cool.
set up perfectly. Your heroes are still doing their thing. It's a new thing. You get new worlds, new characters, scary, intense baddie. Like everything is great. The villain of Thrawn is like a brilliant character.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we get fucking Snoke, who, and that's everything. Okay, I'm gonna fucking. I
Go.
didn't want to do this. I didn't want to
Take
do
your
this.
gloves off.
When Force Awakens starts and you have Kylo Ren, when I first saw him, I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. I was on the edge of my seat. I was like, this is going to be good. This is going to be so good and awesome. And they took his mask off halfway through the thing and just revealed him to be this baby. And I was like, why would you, like, what? Why would you even think you needed to do that? What mentality told you that was a good choice? To make him a whiny brat about things. He's already like well beyond the years of being like a good trained Jedi or Sith or whatever the hell. Like, why would you?
He's half Skywalker, though, right?
Yeah.
My point exactly.
Yeah,
So yeah, I guess. So, and that's the other thing about Snoke. Okay, Snoke's built up as this like big evil dude, and then you see him in the second or the episode 8, and you're like, okay, what are they gonna do with him? Everything you got interested in got like tore apart right away. So Kylo Ren's introduced, you're like, holy shit, tore apart. Knights of Ren are introduced, holy shit. You get to see him in the third movie, and oh my god, did they put up a fight, right? Episode 8, you get to see Snoke, and he's got the Force cut in half. He's gone. Even General Hux is like kind of intense in the first movie, and like a bit of a
Dorcas. Yeah.
well, he's a problem for Kylo in the
Pussbag.
first one. He's not even a pussbag in the first one. He's like kind of serious, but then they just rewrote his character for the second one,
oh, the second one.
and then
Yeah,
what's his name? The guy, the director,
Ryan Johnson.
the other one,
right.
Oh,
yeah.
J.J. Abrams.
J.J. Abrams got rid of Hux because he felt like his character was broke from the second movie. So he literally killed him off, and replaced him with just another stern-faced baddie. All these decisions, and I don't know who is actually responsible for it or who's got their fingers in the bowl. If you ever watch this, just know I don't like you, and nobody does. And like, my God, you could hire 4 random people from any corner of the world, and they could write a better Star Wars movie than what you fucking idiots did. Seriously.
Right
Well,
now,
and
guys, let's do it.
Here's the problem, right?
So
like
I'm done.
because I've been where Jared is. We've all been there a million times, and I try to go. I'm like, well, let's look at it at a business standpoint with Disney, right? I still don't understand. Like, I would get if you're Disney, it would be cool if the movies were a cash grab. I get that. I would be cool with that because that's why Disney bought it. The whole point is for them to make fucking money. But how the fuck do you not expect that? You don't write the whole trilogy out before you even start. You don't even have 3 directors planned out before you start. Even the decisions you made with you let JJ do what he wants, and then for whatever reason you can't acquire him for the second movie, so you let Rian Johnson go in, who's kind of he's artsy fartsy, whatever. I don't want to say too much. And you let him do whatever he wants. Then you hire JJ back to retcon fucking everything the second movie did. The business, it's not even a cash grab. And that's what I don't understand. Like, if you wanted to do, you could have done the first 2 movies with just Luke, Han, Leia. You could have just done them all. And it would have been a cash grab, a successful one. But you didn't even do that. You brought in these new characters that no one even gave a shit about. So Kathleen Kennedy, you've been applauded for E.T. What the fuck else did you do? Honest to God. You're a producer. Throw your money at it and get your fingers out of it. You don't know what you're doing. But even and I don't want to get into the super, the Mary Sue stuff and all that. I mean, you guys can if you want. I'm not going to start that. I don't want to get blamed for it. But it's hard. You'd be hard pressed not to see there's an agenda behind the whole fucking thing too. And it's just insane to me. And with Last Jedi, I would have been cool. I would have been cool if Luke threw the lightsaber, and if you went all in on that concept, or he's like, fuck the Jedi, I found this out, and fuck the Jedi, and you turned Star Wars on its head. I would have been cool with that concept, but you didn't do that. You made Luke go, and then, and then, and then and then Yoda comes. Like, I was so confused in that movie when Yoda came down in a fucking lightning bolt. When he came down and he started laughing and there was flames behind him, I literally thought Yoda went fucking bad. I was so confused. I thought he's like lost his mind. And he's like a Sith ghost. I literally thought that in the movie theaters. I was so fucking confused.
Not to interrupt too much, but how many of you saw it in theaters? And when Yoda showed up, did you hear an applause?
Yes.
Yeah,
No.
I did.
Did you?
I did.
I did not.
I remember.
No, I didn't. I saw it day 1 too.
Yeah. Everyone cheered, and I was like, I knew I was sitting with the wrong people. Anyway, carry
I heard
on.
an audible
What
laugh.
did everyone-
I heard. Oh, go ahead, Hunter. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, off of the Yoda thing, like, would you have rather preferred the CGI Yoda or the Return of the Jedi they used? I was torn myself. I felt like it was like,
Or are you talking like the
almost
Red
too
Fox Yoda?
ridiculous to use the Return of the Jedi because it just looked. What do you mean? Like his Force Ghost or whatever, and when he came back and spoke to Luke, they used like the original like animatronics from the Return of the Jedi instead of using like his like CGI one from like the the prequels.
Yeah.
And I just felt like it looked like almost it was just, like I get there trying, hey, let's give a little chime to the the originals, but I felt like it just didn't look right.
If they could have done a blend of the two, to ease people's minds from the both movies.
That was the least of my concerns in that movie. Like,
I thought you were talking about the one when he was dying. He looked like Fred Sanford from Sanford and Son.
But yeah, I mean, I heard an audible laugh in the theater when Leia went fucking Superwoman and flew back into the ship. Like, there was an audible laugh. You know, like that's not good. It's not good.
And I would have been all right if she would have just like had like a force protective thing. But what they did next, because like the scene with some of the shots were beautifully done in that movie.
Oh yeah,
like the debris around her hand that like pulsed with the force and stuff. I was excited and kind of like, oh boy, like cool. But then all of a sudden the next scene is her just like, flying back towards the spaceship, and then as soon as she gets back, she goes into a coma. It's just like,
well, and the thing is, she's fucking dead at that point. And I'm sorry, I'm talking this way about her, but it's true. She's fucking dead at this point. They clearly had no fucking plan. That was your out. Because
no, she wasn't at that point though.
I think she was.
At the end of it, they could have rewrote it, but I think they wanted to say they wouldn't have their cheesy end shot. They would have
had time to fix it in production when she passed. But you had an out. You could have ended it right there. What did Leia provide in that movie besides telling Poe he was actually a good boy?
Nothing.
I really wanted to keep this positive and talk about the old movies and how wonderful they were. You can't even do that. Like we haven't even touched base too much on the the hats coming off. The prequels.
Oh yeah, here we go.
I mean, were they potentially good if they wouldn't have had crappy CG and I mean a few tweaks? I mean, Darth Maul obviously should not have been killed off in the first movie.
No, that was a mistake.
No.
But that lightsaber fight is amazing.
Oh yeah.
So when I think about the prequels, it's like, well, what are your favorite memories of that? It's like, well, Darth Maul, and then the fight with Obi-Wan and Anakin, and that's it. That's the prequel.
You only like the bread, huh?
Pretty much.
There's so many awkward like love scenes.
I was a big fan of Qui-Gon.
Qui-Gon was all right, but there was there was a reveal that like Qui-Gon would have turned bad or whatever. They were kind of like, because of his history and everything else, like he was like very much like
he was a rogue Jedi.
What's his name?
Dooku. They were very much like in the same mindset.
And Dooku were really close.
And that's
but
everything too.
There's a lot of talk that like they think Qui-Gon could have been the most powerful Jedi like eventually, because he was just like, he didn't like follow the direct path of like the Jedi way. He kind of like, went off on his own. Like he realized like he couldn't just be like the straight and narrow. You needed to kind of adapt to like certain situations, I guess. So I think that's why people are like, well, he was kind of feared in a sense.
Well, that's what I loved about the prequels is that
it's gone.
Oh, what's going on?
I forgot my thought already anyway.
Oh, sorry. Well, but I think that's the one good thing the prequels has going for it. Because if you just look at them as movies, I think the one word you can describe the prequels with is awkward. Everything's awkward. Like the dialogue is uncomfortable. Especially between Anakin and anybody who talks to Anakin. It's very strange. Yeah. But what it did do was it introduced notions that made you, and what I mean by expand the world was that it introduced politics into Star Wars, which some people are like, oh, that's a horrible thing. It was the worst thing it ever did. And yeah, some of the political parts were just like weirdly worded and weirdly just thought out. But what it did do, it made you think about things, especially like Qui-Gon Jinn or Count Dooku and the Trade Federation. And there's this, and are the Jedi really making the best decisions? I think that was one of the coolest things the prequels did, was it painted the Jedi in this light that you previously thought the Jedi were this infallible, on this holy group of people that don't do no wrong. And then you get the Jedi Council and you're watching them and you're fucking straight up frustrated with them, right? Because they could have prevented this entire Anakin mess if they were just blinded by their own virtuistic beliefs. But I thought that was the best part of the prequels, is that introducing that notion, because if anything, it spawned off a bunch of EU stuff that was super interesting.
And some cool video games too.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's a little bit of a win out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it wasn't good writing or directing on the part or casting. Honestly, like why they decided to make episode 1 about a young Darth Vader like that really will bother me forever. But I think it was to get that young generation of kids involved, and
Yep.
I mean, fine, whatever you want to do, it's your thing. But I mean, you had a fan base of people that would have been in their, I mean, if they watched it when they were kids, they would have been in their 20s, and then you're gonna drop a kid movie on them. Like I hate it when they do that with things like that. Like, you do not have any self-awareness of what you created. Like, your biggest fans are in their 20s now. What are you gonna make? You can make a really gritty thing. No, I want Jar Jar Binks and nut shots, and we're gonna throw fucking blue watermelons at people, and
here's the thing: it didn't even work. It didn't work. That doesn't work, because that generation of Star Wars fans are not as rabid as the ones that we're from.
Yeah,
you know.
There are people out there that like the prequels better.
Dude, I meet people my age who like the prequels are their favorite, and it just blows me away.
And they're not wrong. Everyone can like what they want to like. But man, it's confusing.
Darth Vader's way better during puberty. Come on.
I like watching the fucking grass grow on his nuts. Yeah.
It wasn't just the men. It was the women and children too. How could you tell? They're all just
sand got
like, you literally
everywhere.
have to look at their fucking crotch at everything you killed to make sure you're killing women and children. Because I've never once seen a woman or male sand purse or whatever they're called.
Tusken Raider. Yeah.
Tusken Raider. Yeah, I've never seen. Never. I don't know what I'm looking at. Like, look at them. So anyway, that line always bothered me. When I was younger, one thing I liked about the prequels that kind of stood out to me was seeing revisited sets. That was cool. So going back to Uncle Owen's house and stuff, and seeing the things, and they were very careful to make things the same. So that was cool. But then when Rey did it, I didn't like it because she was just like, "I'm going to be a Skywalker now."
No.
That made no sense at all. I was just like, okay. I'm just trying to think of like some more positive things to say, and I'm running out of them. The prequels are
I
pretty
guess I'll
bad.
throw one in their topic. What is everyone's favorite Force use in? I guess you could do it in every movie, any movie. Like your number one favorite use of the Force. I'll switch gears here a little bit.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. Honest to God, I'll actually give the new trilogy my favorite. When I saw Kylo Ren stop a fucking bolt of laser, I was fucking floored.
Oh, wow.
I was out of my mind when I saw that. I thought that was one of the coolest things. And then he released it at his own will, not even concentrating on, just walking away. Like, it was awesome.
I think
that's a really, really hard question. Like, I think you broke me.
Sorry. Adam just leans backwards like, fuck.
I was like, that is a really hard question.
It's obviously Rey's healing ability.
Yeah, no.
Worm healer.
What?
Worm
Okay.
whisperer,
All
Rey.
right. So I'll give another positive here. But then they fucked it up. The scene in the episode 9 where Rey's trying to stop that spaceship from flying away, and she fucking flips out and shoots lightning and blows it up. I actually thought that was pretty sweet. I was like, wow, she just killed Chewie. This is a whole new game now. New, and he was still alive. It's like, God damn it. You killed everybody else off. You can't kill. Heaven forbid we kill the fucking Wookiee.
The big fucking carpet. Yeah.
But
no conversation.
Force lightning is pretty sweet. I think I'll go with that. Or I want to say there was a scene where, and I can't picture it. Where I don't know what it's from. No, I think it's in The Mandalorian. Luke picks up a robot or a death trooper or whatever and just like crumples it.
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
just say he just goes like this and just
Yeah.
That was pretty sick, but that's not in the movie, so I guess I'll go with lightning.
lightning.
I guess that you can go with that. I think any like I guess the
Yeah,
whole
anything that in
I guess Star
continuity with
Wars
the
as a whole, like their universe.
I was gonna say, and I don't know if this
I don't
really
think it
counts.
is.
I don't know if this counts as the Force use, and that's the hard part for me. But no, as a kid, I thought the coolest fucking thing ever was when Luke was getting pushed off that like little dock into the Sarlacc pit, and he fucking had to do a flip off it and catch his lightsaber from
Oh, yeah.
R2D2. But I don't know if that really counts as the Force.
Yeah,
'Cause it was
actually,
getting
no,
tossed
no,
in the
that-
air, but he still had to use it to catch it.
Yeah, no,
Like-
that's a force. That's a force power
Yeah.
to jump and flip like that. That you're absolutely correct.
I don't. Yeah, I was just so obsessed with that shit. And little did I know I'd be 400 pounds someday, but I thought I could do it.
That'll be next week's episode.
Hunter, did you not? You didn't answer it though. What's yours?
No, I just wanted to hear you guys first. No, I always had for the longest time. I think it was like my favorite because it was so nonchalant, almost in a sense. Is like everyone who uses the Force in every movie, it almost seems like it has like this. You know, you're trying to choke someone or like shoot lightning at them, or you're doing something like that. But like the one scene in Episode 1 when Darth Maul is backing up to that door and he just like casually grabs that fucking box off the ground and just chucks it right into the fucking like door panel.
Oh,
And it opens it and then he does like the triple like fucking lights. It was just, like me and my buddy had this discussion about it and I told him, he's like, God, I never even thought about that. But it's like you've never like seen anyone just like, you know, just like quick on the fly, just like, and I know it doesn't seem like it's that cool, but like it almost seemed like he was so like in with the Force, like I can just do whatever the fuck I want over here while I'm still like battling two fully trained Jedi, one a master, or whatever, you know.
I have a
But no,
bit to add on
For
to
the
that
newer one,
story.
I was thinking like that Luke crushed the Yes.
So once in my life when I used to work with Hunter, I witnessed Hunter use that force power in the real world. So when we used to deliver beer together, we spent the whole day with a point system where if like you could like mimic using the Force, and this is a true story. If you could mimic using a Force, you'd get a point. So you walk into the store and the automatic grocery doors open, so you like push your hand to make it open, and it's like, oh, there's a point. Well, then one time Hunter calls me across from the back loading bay of a store. He's like, hey, Jared, I look over, and a box just like lifts into the air and he force pushes it into the fucking compactor. And from my angle, it looked like it lifted off the ground and he pushed it without touching it. Cause he was on the perfect angle where like his hand was behind it, but his other hand was pushing it through the air. It was so fucking stupid. Until the day I die and I'm old and shitty, like I'm gonna remember that. And that's why it's so appropriate that you bring up my favorite. Oh, go ahead.
You're gonna be on your deathbed, Jared. I'm gonna lean over you and I'm just gonna be like, oh, I wish I could change the TV remote, and I'm just gonna float it over to you, and you're like, I knew it, and then you just die. Take that to your grave.
Wait, but that means you could.
It was a perfect angle, though.
Okay, so in the beginning of this, I talked about using the Force or trying to use it. Do you guys have that guilty pleasure every now and then? Just thinking about it.
All the time. You have to try 2 seconds before you get up. You do the
God, if only this were true.
I do this really maniacal thing. I think I did it yesterday or today, but like I'll drive and I'll try to blow up a car with my mind. And I think about, God, if that actually worked, I'd be in so much fucking trouble. I would be in trouble, but my conscience would be. But I don't know why. That's what I go to, is either blowing up that or like a bird I see.
A bird?
A bird, passenger vehicle, whatever.
Oh my God.
I used it today, actually. It was some forced powers. I was taking a shower and there's two of the boys, like a couple of their toys in there, and they're just these little balls, and they're right by the drain, but the water coming to the drain was making it like follow the drain hole and spin around. And we were working outside all day. So Liam he's like, Dad, I got to take a shower too. I'm all dirty because I was working in the dirt. I'm like, all right. And he jumps in, he looks down at the balls. He's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I'm using the Force. And he was just like, looked up at me like, what the hell? I'm like, that's right. He's still young. I can still do this stuff and get away with it. But then like I he tried doing it, and I moved the water direction to like go off the wall, and it stopped. And he's like, "What?"
Oh.
And I'm like, "Here, I'll start it again." I just like sprayed the water hose at the head of the shower over there. I'm like, "There you go." This
Oh
is
my
like
God.
pure confusion on his face.
I'm telling you, yeah. I still try every now and then, just because it's like, okay, I have a weird belief in like I believe in spirits and ghosts and all that stuff. I'm not saying I want to turn this into a ghost episode or whatever, but that other existence of another world or realm or whatever that we don't see or interact with. So like when I'm doing it, I'm usually thinking about like, oh, maybe they'll help me out this time and something will move. But then what good is that? Like if I'm reaching over at my soda can right now and it all of a sudden it flies into my hand and I'm like, oh guys, look, and it never happens again. Like I'm just gonna go insane. So it might be a blessing that it's never happened. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
Ghost just messing with you.
All right, let's we're gonna rein this in. This was just the happy May the 4th be with you special for Camping for A-Holes. We hope you enjoyed it. But before we end it, let's do the hot dog s'more marshmallow vote for the original trilogy. Don't shake your head, Josh. Just participate. You should know. And I'll start with Hunter because he looks like he froze and he's staring off into the wonderland.
Hot dog s'more, or what was it?
Marshmallow.
I thought it was pudgy pie hot dog.
Oh my God. Yeah. Pudgy pie hot dog marshmallow. What did I say?
I'm just gonna give it the marshmallow. You said marshmallow. You said marshmallow s'more hot dog.
Yes, s'more is not on the table. All right, go on.
I'm gonna say s'more then, because I think it was a good 3-part. It's a 3-part thing. Like graham cracker was good, the chocolate and the marshmallow. It all just kind of complete. And like Josh said, it was just a good space opera. And I felt like the characters were built up decently, and I felt like the original just flowed. It had direction, and like watching it from the start in the beginning, you didn't know where it was going, but it just felt like it was a complete story. And I was happy with the ending, and I was happy how it started. Like there was no like times where I was like, "Oh, that was fucking stupid." So yeah, it was a great graham chocolate and marshmallow mix
Great Graham.
for the s'more.
Josh.
Definitely a hot dog. I'm going to tell you why. You're going to eat this hot dog 2 ways. All right. You're either going to dress it up, go all out, sauerkraut, everything you don't like, but make sure there's something in there for everybody and go all out, or eat it fucking plain and leave it the fuck alone. Those are the only 2 options.
That's beautiful.
Adam.
That was well said. I'm gonna go with s'more since that was initially on the table. I'm gonna go with it for the same reason, because I don't like marshmallows, and everything was good about the original Star Wars movies except the Skywalkers. This is another public service announcement that the Skywalker family are essentially the Kardashians of the sci-fi world. And every time you watch it, I want you to think about that, and I want you to remember that all they do is complain and bitch and whine, and that if it weren't for all the other characters in the original trilogy, no one would give a shit.
I'm going to give the original trilogy the wonderful vote of pudgy pie, because in my life I've never had a pudgy pie that was bad. So the original trilogy has never seemed bad to me. Now
You've never put baby food to pudgy pie.
Well, I haven't. That's why I use that vote. All right, so I don't know. All right, so the prequel trilogy, give it a vote of, I gotta name camping things. Log cabin, tent, or out in the world. Sleepy bag.
Out in the world?
Sleeping in the dirt.
Just like nothing over your head.
Yeah, sleeping in the dirt, tent, or log cabin for the prequels. Adam.
Go Adam.
I'm going to go with sleeping in a tent, because at least when you're out in the dirt, you can see like the scars, sky and stars and beautiful nature around you. When you're in a log cabin, you have comfort and security. When you're in a tent, you're just kind of fucking miserable and hoping that it's nice out in the morning. So that sounds about right to me.
All right, Hunter, go ahead.
The original, I will say, I'll give it a tent, but it's a really fucking shitty night out of storming while you're tenting it. So it's just kind of like, at least you're inside and you can somewhat like maintain that you're not getting soaking wet, but it's just a fucking horrible night and you didn't get any sleep really. And your air mattress fucking deflated halfway through the night.
Trying to suffocate you. All right, Josh. Prequel vote.
I'm also gonna go with tent. It's just, it's awkward and it's kind of a bitch to set up. But leaving the camping trip, even though you slept in the tent all those nights, you still walk away going, it was all right.
All right, I'm gonna give it a beautiful log cabin, and I get into the log cabin, and I'm really excited about this log cabin. But as I'm inside there, I realize there's no electricity or heat or running water, and I'm stuck inside the log cabin, and I can't leave. And then I realize the log cabin's haunted, and I guess it's scary in there, and I don't like it. And it just gets worse and worse. There's spiders everywhere. There's actually just a dirt floor, so it was very misleading. And then by the time I leave, like I'm pretty sure an evil spirit owns half my soul. So that was my vote for the prequels. All right, let's move on to the what do you call this? The 7, 8
The post-quills.
Post-quills.
Yeah.
Let's give it a rating of backpack, fanny pack, or too large Yeti cooler that you have to move to the beach from camping. We're camping at Point Beach. This is a fucked up fucking boat. Okay, you have to carry a good amount of shit. You got to either use a fanny pack, a backpack, or a cooler. Hunter.
I'm gonna go with a fanny pack because I feel like you originally everything you hacked was perfect. It fit in there great, and then this controlling girlfriend goes by KK just decided to add so much extra shit that you can barely close a fanny pack, and it's just uncomfortable and just not. Then people are making fun of you because it's not zipping up properly and just not fun. It just completely loses the fanny pack, beautifulness of a fanny pack, and it's not worth it anymore. You don't even want to go to the beach now.
Adam.
I'm going to give it a rating of large Yeti cooler to carry around the corpse of Han Solo so we can revive him and save these 3 goddamn movies.
Beautifully done. Josh?
I'm also going to go with the cooler because you're going to need a seat to sit the fuck down and figure out what the fuck you just saw.
And a lot of alcohol.
Yeah.
I'm going with I'm very similar to Hunter's mindset on this one. I'm going with the fanny pack, and I'm just gonna look at the pile of things I have to get inside of it, and just be like, "Well, this is never gonna work," and then I'm never gonna complete the job. So, just like the movies. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Camping for Assholes. Make sure you guys check out our other episodes. And tune in next week for our discussion on our own personal battles with weight loss and weight gain and everything else food. So thank you guys. Good night.